Moment, going to hear from CEO of Bond, Carl Coetzee. Well, let's bring Carl into the discussion now. Carl, good morning to you, as CEO of Bond. So CPI at its highest level in 13 years, I suppose. The Reserve Bank just has no option but to do this. It hurts, but they have to get on top of this inflation, don't they?
Yeah, Gareth, good morning. Yeah, I think unfortunately, the world is quite turbulent at the moment, and I don't think they have much of an option to do that. We need to get inflation down, and obviously hiking the rates is quite important. We've also penciled in a 0.5% or 50 basis point increase for today. Even the outside chance of potentially 75 basis points, I really hope not. But yeah, it's a reality, and we expected it. We were at a very low end of our rate cycle. And obviously, we are expecting this rates to increase.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what the knock-on effects are of a increase like this. Before we get there, though, let's just remind our viewers, if we can, Carl, how we've seen the interest rates come up, or price inflation, consumer price inflation, CPI. It was about 6.5 earlier this year, about a month or two ago, hasn't it? What led to this massive jump?
Yeah, so I mean, yesterday's figures we saw, at very close to 7.5 in terms of CPI, and we know there's many factors at the moment. Obviously, the Ukrainian war is playing an impact, but we see fuel prices, food prices, all playing a role in this sort of scenario. If we take it back to the interest rate, and I'm talking about the prime interest rate. Remember, from pre-COVID we were at 10%. We went right down to 7%. That's a 30% improvement or reduction in our interest rates, and now we're seeing it starts moving up slowly. So sort of expected, but yeah, I think there are many factors playing a role currently in our inflation and CPI numbers.
Yeah, let's now talk about that knock-on effect of an increased repo rate. We're busy looking at houses and homes and housing estates on screen at the moment. How devastating is this for someone who has a bond? How bad is the damage going to be?
Yeah, so if we look at the actual numbers, Gareth, because I think that's the most important thing, is to start planning and getting your budget right. But if we look at a R1 million bond at the moment, if there's a 50 basis point increase, you'll pay roughly 316 Rand more on your house per month. And obviously, if it's a R2 million house, that goes up to 630 Rand. Roughly. So definitely we'll be tightening the disposable income of consumers with this rate hike, unfortunately.
I'm going to ask you to put your Bond CEO hat on for just a moment as well. Let's talk about the housing market. Do we, or rather do you, tend to see people panic selling at times like this? I mean, you mentioned R1 million. We can expect 360 Rand thereabouts to go up. R2 million, 630, 640 odd Rand after this increase. Do people panic sell?
Gareth, it's very interesting. So we've come out of 2 years of a very strong housing market, and that's really strengthened the market and made it quite robust. So in this time, we've seen quite different behavior from consumers and definitely home buyers. So semigration was one of the buzzwords that we saw, people moving down to the coast that always wanted to live there and now can because of our hybrid working environments. At this time, we haven't seen that. So if I look at our volumes in terms of our intake volumes, and we represent 33% of total volumes of the market, we can actually see volumes are higher, 7% higher than what it was pre the pandemic at the moment. So there's still a lot of activity. We're not seeing people panic buy or panic sell at this point. House prices are 7% up year on year, so still a very good house price. I expect that to come down a little bit as people would need to potentially sell. If you bought at your maximum, a couple of years ago, then there's a possibility for you to downscale. But we are not seeing that trend at the moment.
So are we in a buy?
That I am.
Carry on. I was about to ask you about is it a selling market or a buyer's market? But finish your thought, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just interesting. So, buyers in sort of R3 million brackets, there's been a 30% year-on-year increase in the number of homes sold in that bracket. So I think in general, the housing market is quite stable and robust. So still a very good investment. Yeah, so seeing some good conditions still. And sorry, your question was, Gareth?
Not a problem. No, I was going to ask you, we always hear about a buyer's market, a seller's market. What does the repo rate do on that? I never quite know when it's a buyer or a seller's market. How can you tell?
Yeah, I like to I like to think it's always a market where there's always a willing buyer and seller, but I know we speak of a buyer's market and a seller's market, and really the way I can explain it is, house prices in the past 2 years have increased quite nicely. We've seen it increase last year by 14%. And what that means, it then becomes a seller's market, because sellers can get a higher price for their homes than what they previously could. So then we generally term it as a seller's market. And then when house prices come down, which we expected to do a little bit, then it becomes a buyer's market. So I think we're still in this bit of a seller's market at the moment, but it will move into a buyer's market, more so a buyer's market as we head into next year.
Well, Thank you very much for helping us understand what the true cost is and what kind of market we're in at the moment. Always good to have Carl Coetzee, CEO of Better Bond, joining us. So just to remind you and a recap, if you have a house bond of R1 million, you can expect an increase from today of 360 odd rand. We're not going to give exact numbers, but it's about 360 rand increase, and R2 million, 630. And then the houses from R3 million up, well, I don't think it matters anyway. The house cost so much money. Let's talk about international news.